Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports for today's Six Nations preview as Scotland host Wales in the second round of the Six Nations. Both sides getting a victory last weekend. Scotland upsetting England before Wales edged a 14-man Ireland side out. But it did pay the price with a couple of injuries, and we'll get to the team in a moment. But it should be a very interesting clash because I think, on the banter, if it was the strongest Wales side possible, you'd probably back them. But it's not quite the Wales side that Warren Gatland was getting them to play, so there are a little bit of issues there with Wayne Pivac. On the other hand, I think it's a very confident Scottish side. And Gregor Townsend is saying that they've got an opportunity this weekend to try and continue the positive start. And the fact that they've taken so much confidence out of beating England last week. So I think it's going to be quite an interesting clash. Scotland having the home advantage, their first home game of the tournament. So, look, I think momentum-wise, Scotland are going to be walking into this game thinking, listen, we can actually try and do something here. And if they beat Wales and become 2 out of 2, suddenly they're thinking, right, well, we back ourselves to beat Italy. And then, Ireland at the moment are going through a bit of an injury crisis. So we'll see how that sort of plans out as the tournament goes. And they're going to sit there and say, can we maybe really do something special? And we spoke about that in the preview, talking about how they're definitely a sort of a dark horse because it's quite a confident side. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kick on this afternoon. On the other hand, for the Wales want to try and do something in the Six Nations. They want to try and push for the title. I think England losing to Scotland has kind of blown it wide open and made France the overriding favourites, especially with Ireland going down to Wales. So I think Wales will also be sitting there saying, right, well, if we can get over Scotland, that means we've got Ireland and Scotland out the way. We've still got big games in England and France, but we back ourselves against Italy. And suddenly the tournament can sort of swing, especially if, Ireland can go do something special against France. So I think we're seeing a very even Six Nations at the moment, which is what you want. Because we got a bit boring, when you think that Scotland and Italy sometimes really kind of struggle to compete. You go back years, sometimes Wales also weren't quite the side they should have been. It was often sort of a 2-3-way race. But now, having 5 sides who can genuinely compete for the title just makes for much better watching in the tournament itself. So if we look at the teams, and a couple of injuries. So we'll start with the home side. So Scotland there, a couple of changes in the back line there in terms of injuries there. Scotland are out Jamie Ritchie, Cameron Redpath, and Sean Maitland. And that's why you're seeing the likes of Darcy Graham, James Lang, and Blade Thompson. But apart from that, it's the same bench. So it's got a decent amount of continuity there. The big players there like Duvan van der Merwe, Finn Russell, Ali Price, Stuart Hogg all remain in the side. Hamish Watson I thought was terrific last weekend. And his battle against Tuparik is going to be a huge one. Probably the biggest battle in the clash itself. I think Finn Russell against Dan Bigg will also be quite interesting. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the fullbacks go with Stuart Hogg up against Lee Halfpenny. Also, when you start thinking about, the Lions tour coming up, in many ways, sort of Six Nations being the sort of final audition to try and find a spot, hopefully on the plane to South Africa. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that tour. There's a reasonable amount of continuity. As I said, just to be changed there. The bench is unchanged. The likes of Ollie Cable, BFP now, and Johan Bolt people from South Africa will recognize those names. Hugh Jones off the bench as well as a nice player to bring on. But I think for me, I'd like to see Finn Russell probably trying and take the game really by the scruff of his neck and try and improve on last week. I thought last weekend he had moments, but I also think he had moments where he was a little bit poor. And I think he's such an exciting player, and so much hinges on whether he can have a good game, because on his day, he can be one of the best fly-halves in the world. So, I think it's important that Scotland try and get him into the game, as well as what we've seen, a really good finisher in Duvan van der Merwe, who, is top approach 14 try scoring records, a very, very important player for Edinburgh. So it's a very solid Scotland side. And I think that, you look at a couple of the injuries for Wales, and there's some big injuries there. So, if we have a look at the team itself, so the pack is largely unchanged, apart from Aaron Wainwright, who comes in. And really, really frustrating for Wales is the fact that Dan Liddy had walked off early and David Navidi came on, and I thought he was brilliant. Really came on, he carried the ball well, he was very good at tackling, he was immense at the breakdowns. And I think he would have sure started this weekend. He was one of the best Welsh players last weekend, but he is also injured. He joins the likes of Hallam Amos, Johnny Williams, Thomas Williams, George North, who are all sidelined this weekend. So quite a lot of changes in especially the back line. So in terms of changes, we've seen players coming into the team. Liam Williams, Nick Tompkins, Gareth Davies, Owen Watkin, and Aaron Wainwright, as we said, all come in. And Willis Halaholo is on the bench and will be making his debut if he were to come on tonight. So it's a very, I think it's not the strongest Wales side because they are missing some big names. I think George North would have been playing his 100th test this evening. So a massive blow not to have him. I thought he was pretty good at outstanding. Scored a very nice try. Where you can just see that that's the biggest thing about sort of world-class players is that even when they may be struggling, having a bit of an off game, they can sort of suddenly create something out of nothing, And he was very pivotal in the try, which eventually won Wales the game. So look, it's still a good Wales side, but I think Scotland, you're going to sit there and say they're missing some big players. Let's really go after them and let's try and get ourselves in the front foot early. We are at home. Yes, there's no crowd, but the conditions are still more familiar. And I think for Wales, the Gareth Davies, I'm quite a big Gareth Davies fan. I think he's very good, and I think we're going to see Talapi Faletau and Tupurik have to try and have a very good game. You know what you're going to get from the likes of Adam Beard and Alan Wynne-Jones, and that is high work rate. And then Lee Halfpenny was very good with the boot last weekend. He'll need to be good with the boot again tonight. And he's also very important in terms of his counter-attacking and his game management. I thought Louis Rees-Emmett as well showed a very good side last weekend. Made a very good impression as well. So it's a good Wales side. Not the best Wales side. I think they would have liked to have had a couple of players back. I think George North is a massive loss. But a couple of players now, when you get an opportunity, can try and sort of stand up, and you've got to try and prove that you're not in the squad to build numbers, and you can genuinely start pushing for starting position. So it's a big opportunity for a couple of players, and I'm very interested to see how they go. But I think on the balance of it, I'm going to go with Scotland upset. I think that Scotland outplayed England comprehensively, whereas I think Wales kind of struggled against a 14-man Ireland side, which says a lot about the issues that maybe there are in the Welsh side. I mean, look, I think what you're going to see and what we saw last weekend was a very, very good defensive effort by Wales. They were terrific. I think a 91% tackle rate. They were just relentless on defense. And I think if Ireland had a 50-man team, it might have been a little bit different. But you can't take away from the fact that Wales were very solid and deserved their win against Ireland. It was a massive win, regardless of the situation. But I do think that a very confident Scottish side might be able to do something tonight. I'd love to see a bit of an upset there as well. Let me know what you think is going to happen in the game down below in the comments. Smash like on the video. We are trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, so please do subscribe and support the channel. My name is Steven. More previews coming up. We've got Ireland versus France preview coming up. We'll also have reviews of all the matches as they happen, so make sure you keep it locked on Forever Sports, and I'll chat to you very soon.